The Hustle Share podcast is sponsored by Lark, the leading super app for work in Southeast Asia. Frustrated with juggling and paying for multiple tools for work? Hate mixing personal and business messages? Improve your team's productivity by 10 times with Lark, which combines business chat, email, video conferencing, calendar, project management, real-time translation, and much more into one super app. Trusted by companies like Xiaomi, Glints, Kumu, and Mamaluz. Get it for free at larksuite.com today. The Hustle Share podcast is sponsored by One CFO, the Philippines' leading fractional CFO services provider for startups, scale-ups, and SMEs. Experience the power of tech-enabled, efficient, affordable, and expert-led fractional CFO services. Let One CFO handle your finances so you can focus on growing your business. Book your free CFO consultation today.
I'm quite an extrovert.
Yes, you are.
I mean, I try to be friendly. So I guess that was my biggest strength as well. Even if aside from being friendly,
Yeah.
I also really like listening to other people's story. Like you do this with Hustle Share. And I think the best way to enter or to be inside or at least with other people is to also to listen to their stories.
Welcome to Hustle Share, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ronster Baetiong.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Share Podcast. We finally got this guy. I've been seeing him for 2-3 years now. I remember bumping into you during the pandemic, and for some weird reason, it's my fault. I never got to formally invite you. I've always had respects for AHG and what you guys do. To shout out to Marcel and Mark Kuyman. But the guy that runs the show has always been someone I bump into, and this is the guy that runs the show. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Mr. Rene Cuartero of AHG Lab. Whoop, whoop. Welcome to the show, Rene. Finally, the final piece of the SBA board, the final member that hasn't been here, is officially here.
I remember the first time we met, it was in front of Draper Startup House.
Yep.
They had these tables outside and people were drinking. And I just said, hi, I'm a fan. And then you're like, you don't know who I was, but it was okay. But it was like, I was like, I'm a fan. And then the awkward, myself being so awkward, like, thank you, nice meeting you. Bye, I'm going home.
Dude, I remember, I think I was talking to Jojo Malolos during that time, or one of those guys.
Yeah.
It's so hot inside.
Yeah.
It's a hot box. I'm like, nope, I'm
Exactly.
gonna stay there. And it's still COVID season by then.
It was still COVID season.
And I'm like, nope, not gonna risk that. Nope, not gonna. So again, finally we got to meet. And again, we've met so many times. We've had intense collaborations through Build, through all these things, and obviously Sinigang Valley. And finally you're here. I now get to uncut your past. There you go.
No.
But without further ado, I need to ask you the $1 million question. Rene, what's your hustle?
So hi, I'm Rene. So I'm from AHG Lab. At AHG, we build, invest, accelerate, and empower early stage founders and startups by being their institutional co-founders. It's like your early best friend in building your startup. And we solve your, let's say, core infrastructural problems of the Philippine startup ecosystem together with you so that you have more chances of success and growth, and we do it together with you. I think that in its core is what we do, and all the many and multiple things that we do along the way is really just to make sure that you as a founder come out successful and thriving along the way.
That is amazing. And I've seen you guys, your portfolio. Recently, I just had Don here with Enrique and Mix. I've had Carlo. I have not had Carlo.
Yeah,
That guy is the
I think.
Yeti. I've bumped into him. Dude, this thing. Oh, what can you say about my background? It's still
I know,
the
it's a
Wii
Wii
remote
remote.
one. And he
Yeah.
never wants to jump on. It's like, what are you waiting for, man? Let's just get done. But he's elusive. Even now, Sam is also elusive. But again,
Yeah.
the portfolio is solid. I've seen so many success stories. And again, it speaks for itself.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Right.
you.
But later we will dissect that. But before we do that, I need you to buckle up real quick because we need
Eto
to
na.
cut your past. Just
Oh no.
your origin story. I want to understand the origin story before AHG Lab because we're going to have to ride the Hustle Share Time Machine. And we are back. So, Rene, I always
Ito pala
ask this.
yun.
Yep.
This is-
Yep. I want to understand a few things. Again, what's the first few hustles that you remember being exposed with, or you doing early on
Yeah.
in your life? Is this even aligned with tech whatsoever and whatnot?
I would say that, my earliest exposure to hustling would be my dad, of course. I think our family's unit would be, the family unit is where you see all of those experiences and growth.
Correct.
So growing up, I saw my dad really have multiple businesses. So he used to work in Saudi. So imagine in the 70s and
Assalamualaikum.
80s. Assalamualaikum indeed. And he was a programmer actually. So this was not even now in hindsight. Now I understand maybe where my inkling for tech or at least innovation is. But my dad was a programmer in the 70s, and he would always tell us these
Wow.
stories. Na parang, and this USB that time, parang when I was younger, this 2 MB USB before when we had to bring a 2 MB or 1 MB data, whatever, apat na tao, they would carry
Oh my
something,
God.
plug it in, screw big screws and stuff. And that was 1 MB. So for him,
Wow.
when he would tell the stories about nakakatuwa, I mean, now in hindsight, it's amazing. He would tell like, ito floppy disk. Alam mo, dati, that to us, this had to be a massive thing. You plug in, dapat may kuryente,
Yep.
all of those things. And that's why also I think why he was a early Apple fan. So even he was one of the first few people using Apple in the Philippines. But anyway, he was a programmer back in the 70s, 80s, then went back home to the Philippines. Growing up, he was able to save some money and started multiple businesses. So I've seen him succeed and fail in a lot of them. Nakita ko when he started he tried to sell rice as selling rice in the province. So I grew up in Bataan, so provinciano through and through.
What? I did not know this.
So
Okay.
I'm
Which town? Balanga, Orani?
no, Dinalupihan. So it's the first
Dinalupihan.
it's the first town that you enter. It's the only town which doesn't have any connection to the sea. So we're the only landlocked place in there.
And
So
that's
my
the last
dad-
one that you should suko.
Yeah.
In anything. Oh.
Although kami unang subuko because we were the entry to Bataan.
Okay.
Unfortunately, no, but yeah. So he had a rice business. He also started an orchid business. Growing orchids in their backyard. He also started a barber business. So all of these things, some succeed. A lot of them failed actually. And there were a lot of times when he was like, wala tayo, we have to be tipid. We have to be very frugal. Until he took out a big loan to start a hardware business. And eventually that grew into something quite large. And I also saw how, we started from a one-story house to when, started I seeing my dad becoming more successful. Pwede na tayo magpatayo we could now have a second floor.
Nice.
These portions of life, in hindsight, I saw how much he hustled, and he also taught us to be very frugal with money. Anyway, I could talk about it. He sent me to Manila in 2006, 2007. My baon, this is including every week, was 500 pesos. So that's
all in na.
I don't know, all in yun. So that would include printing, Xerox,
Pamasahe.
or photocopy, pamasahe.
Wow.
I remember crying the second week in Manila. And that was the first time I lived in Manila. Crying, telling him, Dad, I cannot make it to the end of the week. Saying, okay, I'll add 100 pesos. So, I don't know, but those types of, I think, formative experiences. My dad was very careful with money. And because it's also coming from the fact that he grew so much businesses from,
Yeah.
well, just his own capacity.
And mind you, I'm looking at your LinkedIn. You studied in not in a cheap environment. Ha, you're in
No.
LaSalle. In LaSalle. There you go, right?
But I think that's the reason why people think like, oh, Lasal yan, he's probably,
Mm.
loaded, ganyan, ganyan.
Mm.
But I think it's also because growing up, so all of us, so I had three siblings. All of us went through public school. Sa mababang paaralan ng Dinulapihan, tsaka sa mataas na paaralan ng Bataan. So, I don't know, for us, for me, it was even scarier because when I went to Manila, I studied in LaSalle. All of a sudden, people were like, "Oh, wearing nice clothes." They were like, "Oh, what you wear? People are people." I'm wearing RRJ, Dickies.
Oh.
For me, social na yun.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know.
Folded in. You need to be folded in hang level at least
Yes,
man
yes.
lang. Mm-mm.
And I don't think a lot of the kids now don't understand what RRJ and Dickies and whatever.
They're still in
are.
EDSA, in fairness. They
They
still have.
still
Yeah.
are there. They
Mm.
still have a market, but there are also a lot of insecurities where you're there. Parang, oh my God, people could spend money. And there's like, oh, they have 500 baon. I have 500 baon for the week, including pamasahe, printing, my almusal, lunch, and dinner, which I have to go to the carinderia. Anyway, but it was a nice experience. But again, my dad was also super nice kasi parang after 2 weeks or after a month of mini crying, he was like, oh, sige, I'll increase it to 1,000 pesos.
Nice.
So, I was able to survive college.
You can now go near behind Saints Co and get a couple of cranks out there. Right now, but I understand. I didn't realize we're almost batchmates. I also studied college I started 2006. So yeah, okay. So batchmate pala. Okay,
Batchmate.
Okay, but
magkakaedad lang tayo.
yes, I want to understand though a couple things. So let's just call it what it is. A lot of people from the province, when they go to Manila, and I'll admit, a Manila boy, there's a certain yabang to a Manila boy. And to a good thing, sometimes it's a good thing, majority of the time it's a bad thing. Because there's a certain entitlement to us motherfuckers who grow here. In reality, wala naman eh. Actually, it can be detrimental to the point where you feel like you're entitled to something and you don't hustle for it. And the ones that my good friend that came from the provinces, usually super humble, and sometimes too humble to a fault that you don't even know how good you are. Hindsight being 2020 now, level playing field, right? That's in school, that matters a lot because again, the click you bring. What are the things that you remember struggling with aside from academics? Obviously, you fucking killed it. Dean's Lister and all these things. So you did your part. But when you're trying to fit into a new environment, coming from the province, small town mentality to all of a sudden big city. Because this is a running theme that you did. After LaSalle, you want to fucking Geneva, you need to fucking Netherlands, so another small town, big city transition. But I think, if you correct me if I'm wrong, this is that first foray into that. And you just kept going to bigger and bigger and bigger cities. But how did you get over that first hump?
I would say that more than anything, there was a lot of help also. I remember going back home, like after my first week, and I was saying like, oh my God, I cannot catch up. And people are smart. So let's put it this way. I felt smart and I felt that I could adjust quickly and understand complex things when I was in the province. I would dare say na parang at the province level, I was one of the smarter in our batch, in our group. You reach Manila and then all of a sudden, parang, oh my God, people here are smart. And the other people from the other provinces are also smart. So all of a sudden, you are just an average person or below average person than everyone else. I think there was a lot of help also along the way where, I would ask my kuya, I would ask people around me, hey, how could I adjust to this? And I think that's one of the running themes across my life. I am not afraid to ask for advice and ask for feedback on is what I'm feeling valid? Is there is it gonna get better and whatnot? So for me, my kuya and my ate at the time, so because I'm the third person from the family to go to Manila. And they were like, it's gonna get, you just have to, stick to what you can do
Mhm.
and just keep, parang hammering on. What was helpful though for me, so I'm quite an extrovert. So
Yes, you
I
are.
mean, I try to be friendly. So I guess that was my biggest strength as well.
Mm.
Even if aside from being, friendly,
Yeah.
I also really like listening to other people's story. Like you do this with
Mm.
Hustle Share. And I think the best way to enter or to be inside or at least with other people is to also to listen to their stories.
Absolutely.
So on one end, I was listening to their stories. At the other end, I think, in hindsight, I was also trying to mimic them. So, ano ba
Yeah.
magsalita, taga Maynila. So, hindi na ako pwedeng, hey, how are you, everyone? So, in the province, we speak like this. So, you assimilate. And I
Correct.
think that's, it, on one, you might think that, oh, you're not being true to yourself. But at the same
Mm.
time, you have to also know that for you to be able to thrive, you have to accept that there is a reality of how, you know, the group, the culture, everything works. And for you to be able to be accepted, or at
Yeah.
least to easily smooth your way into it, you
Correct.
have to kind of adjust. So sometimes that comes in the in the form of changing the way you speak English.
Fuck yeah.
Not that anything's wrong, by the way. Because ako,
Mm.
when I speak English, I would always hear myself, oh, fudge, nandun pa rin yung
Mm.
provinciano accent ko.
Mm.
But 90%, 95% of the time, I would hear myself like, okay, you've assimilated and at least you've tried. And
No,
that's the
totally
same way
agree.
when I was in Amsterdam, I was living there. My English sound like Dutch English. Because,
Ooh.
well, I would not do that anymore now. But for
Okay.
example, with Mark and Marcel, both of them were Dutch. Sometimes
Right.
we'd also speak Dutch.
Mm.
But so I think there's a portion of even language is a core, being able to communicate even kung paano sila magsalita.
Yeah.
That helps you connect and be able to understand each other better. I
Got
don't
it.
know if I answered it
No,
so
it makes a
much,
lot of
but
sense. Uh-huh.
assimilating is an important portion of being able to adapt and grow. So if you work against the grain and say like, hey, I'm just gonna follow my own rules and this is how I am, then I think just making it even more difficult. It's an
Yep.
easier ride to assimilate and then paano ba? Learn your
Yeah.
environment and then how can I manipulate it versus follow me because this is my way.
No, totally agree. Perfect example is me. I have to speak this way because unfortunately I cannot remove the Kalye me. The Kalye me will always be there. So fuck it. I'm just gonna translate everything that I say in English and sound
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
boys, right? To at least get a proper opportunity because I can never change how I look. I look too Kalye as well. I look like who the hell is this kuya? Majority of the
You
time,
look
I'm
perfect, man. I accept you.
no, because I've spent enough time, but I spent a good chunk of my early career trying to assimilate and get
Yeah.
over my own insecurities. And now it is what it is. This
Yeah.
is the final version of me, and I don't care. But that's so right, because especially if you're coming from lower middle class in a class where there's an elite. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
You gotta fucking fit in, and you gotta remove those handicaps that you were born into.
Yep.
If you do
Yep.
not remove that handicap, sorry, elite na nga, you don't
Mm.
belong here. It's mean
Yeah.
girls out here, yeah. So you need to
To
be
be
able to
fair,
give.
I think there are handicaps on that portion of your life. But I think like anything in life, you bring everything in your backpack.
Correct.
And at one point, connecting to yung tao mo, your people, everyone, having this knowledge of, let's say, multiple levels of
Correct.
social capability, social mobility of even of your the way you speak, you
Mm.
communicate. That is, I think, a lot of people will not have or be able to even translate
Correct.
across those levels.
And you
So
diversify at that point, right? So
yeah,
perfect example. I always thinking of it like, okay, Brian Koo, one of my biggest idols. That guy can be put in a board meeting with the Gokong Ways and he'll be fine. But if you
yeah,
need him to hustle with the Grab drivers,
kaya rin.
kuyang
He
kuya,
can.
he'll,
Yeah,
he's gonna do it, and that's what a founder needs to be able to diversify because, especially in a startup environment, you need to roll up your sleeves and get out of that fucking air conditioned room. Be libag libag out there and Do the
You have no
hustle,
idea.
literally.
The libag-libag in me patintera sa mga kalye of Bataan. Like they put the tubig on the street
Oh
and
my
then make
god.
sure that we
No, but it's a super skill. Especially for extroverts like us.
yeah.
You need to be able to diversify with the right kuya, and also remove your own handicap that you put over yourself. Because I've seen also a lot of people that I started with. Be like, Ron, why do you have that American accent? You don't have that na money. Like, the
Yeah.
fuck are you? Like, dude, this is my only ticket. This is my
No,
only ticket. And if I
but
do
also
not
that's
double down on it. Mhm.
that's a way of thinking na, oh, why are you trying to be someone else when, but this person is just the same person who he is. He
Yeah.
has just the capability to use
Mhm.
that certain accent. It's not that they're being fake.
No.
They're actually using a skill to be able to, I don't know,
Yep.
accomplish
Yep.
other things.
Yep.
So,
And the more I
people
kept
can,
doing it, the more I realized it's just me. So who the hell cares, right?
yeah.
So I love that we talked about this, because now after school, what happened next? So what are the first few hustles? Suddenly?
Let's say, okay, first few hustle na talagang, that's really mine.
Yep.
I think it's the first time I'm saying this publicly also. So I used to, back in college, I used
Mm.
to be making around 150. So imagine it's 2009, 2010. 150, sometimes 200,000 a month.
What were you
Uh,
doing? What?
I was, so here's the thing. So, and at that time, I felt like, wow, I could just do this. But, my parents had different dreams for me. I have to work corporate, blah, blah, blah. But also,
Why?
I wasn't telling them. So I was like partying a lot in 2007, 2008 because I had money. So I was 2008, 2009. I was writing thesis for other people. So,
Wow.
and, and I don't know, the moment I used to, back in elementary, I used to
Yeah.
compete to the national level of, let's say, Mount Olympiad, ganyan. So
Yep.
the moment I got introduced to stat and econometrics, which is a way of explaining the world using statistics and modeling,
Mm.
all of a sudden I have a skill that I could offer to others who can't write or do the statistics of their thesis.
Yes.
How did I get into this hustle? It's so one of my friends back in college. He was I'm not gonna name him any name
Okay.
anymore. He was dropped
Anonymous. Mm.
anonymous. He was dropped by all of his thesis mates, and he was like, "Fudge, I don't know how I will be able to finish this thesis." I was
Mm.
like, "I'll help you." And in one night or two nights, I was like, "Okay, I'll have your data. These are what's missing." And this for me just came like a natural skill because I love statistics. Um, and then I was able to create basically his results and conclusion in 2 days. Because
Wow.
his data was minimus, it was clean.
Mm.
And then he was like, of course, a tamad person also has other tamad friends.
Birds of a feather,
And
they
then
just stick together.
so, well, tamad people with money have
Mm.
also other tamad people friends with
Yep.
money.
Yep.
What my only qualifier was that I was not gonna do any other thesis from LaSalle. So
Mm.
I was writing and making thesis of other people from UP, from Ateneo, from UST, from San Beda, from actually my biggest market was the university there. San Beda, CEU, FEU. I was even
Wow.
making thesis for some. My course was economics, but I was making thesis for example, one of my favorite ones was about the impact of parang how do you trace the impact of andropause, which is andropause is like when a male person loses his masculine I don't know, yung uh what's the name of testosterone levels are going down, etc. But
Oh, okay.
this is a nursing and medical thesis. But
What?
because I knew how to use statistics and economic, and I in 2009 2010 modeling with using Stata
Yeah, yeah,
was
yeah,
not
yeah.
a common skill. But now, let's say 2015 and 16, SPSS became bigger, so everything was click and whatever. But
Correct.
because in 2009 2010 everyone had to code how to model things,
Wow.
they needed someone to code modeling.
That's
So at that
amazing.
time, if I could create basically 100,000, 150 per month, that was my hustle. So in hindsight, parang, you know what? I could have just started a thesis making company in 2009 or 10, then I would be swimming in cash.
Oh, for real. But you know what? That's amazing. This super skill that you've developed So okay, you've already learned how to blend already. Plus, you already technically can interpret the world in statistics, and you see that it's multidisciplinary.
It is
Technically,
multi-
you did so many
it's
theses during your
it's
college days.
cool. And I
Yeah.
feel like, and I loved it. And I think that's the same with, now in venture building, you get to
Mm.
dabble yourself in so many
Yeah.
different industries. So I'm super curious, like, oh, what makes them tick? What moves here?
Mm.
If you test something like this, does it work? It doesn't work, then let it
Mm.
go. That's the same thing with statistics. Does this model explain exactly the question that you're trying to answer?
Mm.
Sorry, I'm very prof style.
No, I love it. I
but
love it.
but and I think a lot of professors are teaching statistics wrong. They're teaching it as if it's you have to study the math around it. But if you look at it as a brush and a tool to be able to explain the world, then actually it's such a beautiful art to
No,
be
for
able
sure.
to show and simplify data and what's happening in the world.
It's like
Anyway,
seeing the matrix, literally.
it
Now,
is seeing them and then organizing it
correct.
beautifully.
And you can, and the beauty about statistics too, and this is what I've learned, not because I still can't do shit for math, but I surround myself with people who can do this. Everything is predictable. There's no
If you
there
model properly, if you
correct.
look at the
If you
right,
model properly.
yeah,
If you haven't modeled, wala, good luck to you. Dasal is what you can do. But if you have a model, there's no outcome that you cannot foresee. Because
yeah,
there's a high outcome, mid
yeah,
outcome,
a
low outcome.
problem. I will have to, as a stat lover, I have to
Okay.
caution you. You should say not that you could predict, but you have a probable reality or a probable
There.
outcome. So with some level of certainty.
Said like
So
a prop. Okay, very good.
Sorry, to cut it short, that was my first hustle. And
Mm.
of course, as a young person who's extrovert, where do I spend it? I go to Libby's, I go to
Bipolar
There was
people are
embassy
people.
before. Like, oh,
Mm.
okay, so I didn't assimilate. I'm not from the Manila, but I have money to spend on partying.
Boom.
Dude, it's not, I don't know, but in hindsight, it's funny because basically I was able to also create a network
Yeah.
because I was able to hustle from helping people answer their thesis problems. Simply because
Mm.
again that I cheated. They didn't cheat. They contracted
They
someone
outsourced.
to help. They
Very good.
outsourced the capability.
Mm.
Anyway, so after that, I went to my first job was actually in Procter and Gamble in Singapore. Uh,
Insane. How did you get there?
yes. So I think like everything in my life, uh, there is someone in my life that helped me open that door. I think for me, as a provinciano, my
Mm.
dream was very simple. My parents just wanted me to have a job. Yun lang yun.
Mm.
So have a job, work somewhere in corporate,
Mm.
etc. Back in my studies, there was this professor who always said, si Dr. Austria, I
Shout out
adore
Dr.
her.
Austria. Mm-mm.
I always tell you to everyone, if there's anyone who's pivotal in my life, that's her
Mm.
because she has always said, Reno, never stop here in the Philippines. So if you're gonna do a master's, I will tell you don't do it here in the Philippines, do it abroad. So
Why down?
someone had to plant because you have for her, you have to also widen your
The
capability
perspective.
and your
Yeah.
perspective. And although it's amazing to do it here, and I truly believe that the capabilities are here also.
Yeah.
But the possibility to see the world in a different space,
Correct.
in a different perspective, is different when you get to do it abroad.
Mhm.
And although the math, the models, etc. are the same, but you're in a
Correct.
different context.
Totally
So
agree.
I think that's super important in terms of the nuance there. So ako parang from, oh nga no, pwede pala, it's possible for me to do something abroad, but I don't have the money for it. And he's like, you should always apply for scholarship. And that was an idea that someone put in there. But anyway, that was like moving forward. But also that means that I had an idea already that I wanted to be abroad. It's all because in my second and a half year in college, someone told me that you should try looking at abroad.
Yep.
Now, you said kanina my grades were high. I actually was a terrible student.
Okay.
My so I
Basta
don't believe
pasado,
in
okay na yan.
grades. Baka ba- There are goods and bad parts. Parang my
Mm.
dad passed away in
Oh
college, and
no,
I
I'm
went
sorry.
into. No, it's okay. It's also a pivotal moment. All of a sudden, I had to be more responsible, help with my mom, etc. So I was at some point I was parang my college schedule was from Monday to Thursday. Thursday
Mm.
evening, I would be on a bus to
Going home.
Bataan. And then I would be Monday early morning at 3 a.m. going on a bus to Manila. Uh,
Wow.
be, so that was like the last 2 years of my life. Uh,
Mm.
anyway, 2 years of my life in college. So how did I get the PNG one? So again, it's also someone na parang my grades were terrible. But if they asked me to explain something or do a presentation, I kill it.
Mm.
So my professor in investment banking at the time, he said like, I don't get it, Rene. You are like, if I give you a problem now here, you can solve it. But if you're in an exam, you don't care. Just kind of sad. The only time I would study is I would be studying like the night before. I remember everything and do the exam just to pass. But then I was also BS orgs. I was doing so many orgs. I was like in five different organizations, a
Yeah.
president in two, and
Yeah.
then also one social civic organization, like doing social
Mm.
civic work in Bataan. So talagang super,
Bibo.
super bibo kid, but
Mm.
not in academics. So this guy was like, say, Sir Clive, sabi niya. So even if my grades were low, PNG was asking for who are the high performing students. So normally, as a professor, you're gonna be asked by, let's say, big companies,
Mm.
could you give us a list of names which are high potential? Everyone that was in there were probably our,
Bookworms.
not only the Dean's Lister, pero yung talagang mga cum laude, summa.
Mm.
And there was one name there that is my graduation grade was around 2.3. And you could, I don't know, in LaSalle, that's low.
Yeah.
And in LaSalle, you could actually ask for what's your ranking from your degree program
Yeah. The
amongst everyone.
percentile. Mm.
And in the last. So everyone who did economics and finance, I am ranked last. But my professor said that you might not perform well probably in school, but maybe if I propose you as a high performing student in PNG, you will do well.
Wow.
So it again, someone opened the door, and I didn't even think about that. So I went to this PNG interview and assessment. It went by, and at the end, I always thought I was gonna do PNG here in the Philippines, and then they said like, "Oh, actually, your thinking is more for a regional level thinking, more conceptual. So we want to
Mm.
offer in Singapore." So I ended up in Singapore. So not even me applying. Again, it's the world and the universe and
Yeah.
God somehow opening that door to see the world. So
That's
again,
amazing.
kaya sinasabi ko, there's a lot of luck, but also you have to be prepared.
No, for sure.
So
And
I
you
think
made so
that
many theses na to prepare for that portion.
exactly.
Okay. All right, now let's take our first break. And when we come back, we will now talk about, of course, the amazing career all over the world that you've done, and of course, how that led to AHG Lab. But let's talk about that more after the break. Hey, hustlers, how many apps are you using at work these days? 5, 10, 20? Let's face it, there are chat apps for internal communication and emails for external. Cloud Drive for docs and wikis, calendars and video conferencing, spreadsheets and project management software, and probably yet another tool to connect them all. It is a mess. And if you're collaborating with cross-border colleagues, partners, or suppliers, it gets even more complicated. And don't you find it disruptive when your personal and business messages get mixed up? And if this sounds painfully familiar, switch to Lark, the leading super app for work designed to increase your team's productivity by 10x at an unbelievable fraction of the cost. With Lark, manage projects, chat with your team, build a knowledge base with wikis, and automate workflows such as approvals without code effortlessly from one app. No switching or integration needed. Join fast-growing companies in over 125 countries, including Xiaomi, Glint, and the Philippines' very own Kumu and Mama Luz, who trust Lark as their workplace super app. I've started using Lark myself for our pressure washing business service, Papa Pressure, and I'm totally loving it. Want to see how Lark can revolutionize your business? Click the link in the description or download Lark for free at larksuite.com. That's larksuite.com, the productivity super app every business needs. And we're back in the break. We are still with Rene Cuartero on the brink of being imported into Singapore from a regional point of view. Because before the break, he told us how he got into PNG. So we're gonna breeze through this real quick because I want to really discuss what you guys do in AHE Lab. So you got into PNG, regional, high-performing student. Walk me through how you became a global trailblazer and what you learned from each stop.
It's hard to answer because there's so many stops that I went through, but I'll breeze through what's the most important ones in them. So the first one was in PNG. I think in there, so I felt in LaSalle finally, I was like, okay, up to part with everyone. You go to PNG Singapore, then again, I felt super stupid. I felt like
Man.
I was not, what do you call this? Like, I was not performing well. But if there's anything that PNG taught me the most, and up till now, I see me doing that. It's like they have this framework. I don't know if they still use the framework. It's called Power of Minds, Power of People, and Power of Agility. Power of Mind is you as a person having the capabilities to do well. So they say na parang, you're here, that means you have the power of mind.
Yep.
The
You
power
made it.
of people, and the power of people, on the other hand, is you being able to maximize the people around you, the talent around you. And the power of agility, so this is before VUCA was even a term.
Wow.
It's about the world is ever changing. You just have to be agile around it. So
Yep.
if there's anything, I think I was agile and had the power of mind. But in Singapore, and more than anything, and it took me maybe a month or so before I figured it out. For you to progress well, you have to be able to tap the expertise and lean on the capabilities of others.
Yes.
Once you recognize that you don't have to do everything and that there are other people around you that could help you do that, then life becomes not easier but more manageable. And you're never alone. So from Singapore, you might have learned more financial modeling or more regional case study building. But what I learned the most is that you have to make sure you bring other people with you for your problems.
For sure.
And then after that, I went back home. I went back to the Philippines, mostly because I wanted to help out with a bit of the family business, but also, again, because my mom was alone. So I said, like, I'm going to go back to Deutsche. So I worked in investment banking for a bit on the derivatives trading operations. And there, I would say that the biggest learning would just really be more on, again, using a global perspective and then looking at things like processes. So in PNG, you learn people power. In
Not to overthrow the government,
no, the power of people. But in Deutsche, you learn that although things can be complex, everything's a process. So you have to know in which parts of the business you could actually optimize.
Yeah.
And that's the same for any tech, anything that you do. Parang you have to look at the root cause analysis, etc. But during that time, remember when I was saying earlier that, my professor implanted that seed na you have to apply abroad. I thought that I didn't want to spend money on it. So I started applying for every university that I could apply for. As long as, imagine 2011, this is the years where the websites were terrible. So if there's a will, there's a way. I started just looking at, does it say scholarship? Apply. Do I qualify? It doesn't matter. I apply. So
shotgun
everything, but also conscious shotgunning. So I mean, like I write everything really well and whatnot. So I gotten a lot of offers to me for my masters, but there was only one university and program that gave me a full ride. So so that means that they were just Nyenrode Business Universiteit. It's a university in the Netherlands, but compared to everywhere else, not only are they going to pay the tuition, they also paid for my monthly allowances and housing. So even if there was I'm not going to name the big universities anymore, but parang UK universities and whatnot.
Yep.
I never applied to any American universities. I think I was trying to be contrarian.
Wow,
I always felt
contrarian. Okay, there you go. Against the grain.
Felt like everyone wants to go to the US. Now in hindsight, sabi ko, dapat yata nag-Ivy League ako because everyone is so yabang with it. So meron ako small insecurity about it. But at the same time, but you made it work. So
Yeah, at least you have a fucking overseas university experience. What about us that have nothing,
no,
right?
that's not,
Buying
pero
shit.
yun, pero that's, at some point, parang isip ko na lang, siguro kung nag-apply ako, I would have gotten something
For
or an
sure.
offer. But then I was also like, but in my life at that time, my best decision was I wanted to be unique and special. So it has to be
Wow.
in Europe.
Yep.
Anyway, so I got there, and from that point, I really wanted to, and I think this is a major thread into my, life, including AHG.
Mm.
I I wanted to move into something that's more international development. So
Mm.
my dad, aside from being an entrepreneur, was also into developing, let's say, the local communities.
Of course.
So he was part of the water district, which brought the water to our town.
Wow.
So he was with one of the first board members for it.
Mhm.
He was also part of, let's say, a lot of organizing medical missions around Bataan. So once he made it, or at least he made some, he really wanted to give back. And that's a quality that he always said na parang, oy, whatever happens, you have to make sure that you give back and you contribute
Mm.
back.
Correct.
So for me, I wanted to move into, let's say, international development where you do development work.
Mm.
So my master's was actually international business and diplomacy.
Wow.
And that's why I don't know if I think you're in by LinkedIn. So I
Mhm.
had two exchange programs, one in Zayed University in Dubai and
Mhm.
UAE.
Mhm.
Just basically doing how to do business in the Middle East, and then one in Geneva, which is more on humanitarian response and
Wow.
capabilities. And that was kind of, let's say, the track that I wanted to go to. But
Okay.
then my internships and things that I did Unilever also in Turkey a bit. That was just an
Turkey.
experience.
Mhm.
Turkey in Istanbul, and
Mhm.
also I did Red Cross in Geneva while I was doing my what they call international studies.
Got it.
And then also a bit of in Morgan Stanley Capital for international what they call this again, for real estate research and
Mhm.
international investing. But
Got it.
all of those are just hard skills. For
Mm.
me, what was important was that I have to move into development where you're contributing to the development of ecosystems and worlds and communities around the globe.
It's
I
amazing.
was lucky again to be introduced to someone from my someone I met through an event. And I said like, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity going back to the Netherlands,
Mm.
just to do something in development. And at the time, there was a startup. Well, it's not a tech startup. It was a development startup. Uh, where they're trying to do financial literacy and financial inclusion
Mhm.
across the globe, where we work with central banks and ministries of education so that they could make their policies and agenda and their central bank and their banking system more
Mm.
consumer friendly for children so that they could have their own
Wow.
bank account and at the same
Mm.
time be able to start saving and be better at financial decision making. So
Okay.
the end goal is that, karamihan kasi a lot of the interventions that are being done is that someone is working already and
Okay.
someone is already in debt. So imagine at 18 years old yung iba, they're already in debt because they have a credit card and they don't even know what it is for. So they start
Yep.
spending and then they're in debt. Or they borrow from, like our parents would borrow from a lot of loan sharks because they don't understand that there are other alternatives.
Yeah.
So another intervention to go and change that is that from a young age, we already start changing the economic decision making
Mm.
of people and knowledge. So what we did, so they introduced me to the team, and I was employee number 7 at the time. We were operating just in Europe. And then they made me head of, let's say, strategy and network advisory.
What's the name
We
of this
expand.
institution?
It's called Child and Youth Finance International. It no longer
Ah.
exists because it was acquired.
Okay.
So we grew the organization to around 150 countries during
Okay.
my time. And I was leading basically every relationship and every negotiation of
Mhm.
policy making for central banks across the globe
Holy
and
shit.
also Ministry of Education. So there are a number of countries proudly that I will say that my name is on the how the policy was created for
Nice.
child financial inclusion, so that children, anak mo, my kids, whoever's kids,
Mm.
um, at a young age will have access to financial literacy education. The Philippines was a hard for me as a Filipino. It was very disheartening how slow our government was. So we did not
Okay.
make so much
Progress.
progress here.
Mm.
We did some programs, some teacher training and whatnot, but I would say it was okay.
Yeah.
We
But at
made
least the
progress
framework is
also.
already there. People just
The
need to
framework is
execute.
already there.
Mm.
Exactly. So some of the biggest things that we did is parang in Bangladesh, one of our bigger what they call this, like a financial literacy program, like in a month was impacting
Mm.
20 million kids.
Wow.
That's just one program. That would mean that you have to create the infrastructure.
Mm.
How do you do that program so that it reaches 20 million kids? Or in India, where we do teacher training for 200,000 teachers in 3 months, where we plan for it in 2 months. All right, all of these things is we've grown basically an organization operating in a few countries to 150. Eventually, that got acquired by the OECD in fact. Um, that's I'm not here aware of its economic uh, institution. So this is basically the group of economic uh, um, entities of governments across the globe. And they do basically policy and programs on multiple things, mostly on economic development. But
Okay.
this one, they acquired it, and that was my first, or at least the experience of a first exit. Uh,
Nice.
so there was a bit of money, but again, this was more about impact than anything else.
Got it.
Well, now that was happening. A few of my friends and also a few people we were talking. No, okay, we're solving, let's say, savings and spending habits of people.
Mhm.
But the real game changer is when you make people start businesses and also create jobs for others.
Right.
So we started what we call Yeah Community at the time. It's a it's a or it's a website. It's an online community for young entrepreneurs. So imagine
That was you
2013.
pala. The one that
So
worked with Kubo.
with Kubo, that was us.
Arise plus
So
Yay.
yes, that's.
Okay.
I mean, I'm no longer part of it, but it is very. I have chills. It is
Mm.
very beautiful to see that even if you're not operating it anymore, the project and the program and the entity is still
Yeah, it's
alive.
thriving. Now I'll come clean. I was an idiot when I first hear it. When I heard, Yay, is this Kanye? What the hell is this? Like I got like, whoa, Yay, because Yay, Kanye now goes by.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, wait, is he fucking startups? Is this Jay-Z play where he invests in startups? And then I realized, nope, wrong. This is the wrong guy.
No.
But I was I was a mentor in several cohorts that they
Thank
got
you for
through.
supporting it. But
Again, this is my
although
own little way.
I'm no longer running it. But
No, but you're one of the people that started it, and it's doing
yeah,
well. And I've seen the quality of startup founders that they were able to get pretty solid. So
yeah.
it's
So
nice.
although in the past it was supposed to, so our mandate before was
Mm.
really just to support any young entrepreneur in all of the aspects of it. Uh, um, Across their whole entrepreneur journey, because being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur is very lonely.
Oof.
And having a community around it was very important.
Yeah.
Although so that was the how we were doing it for the first 4 years. But then when the World Trade Organization acquired it in 2019, they changed the mandate so it's still supporting young entrepreneurs, but mostly also on globalizing. But that's because the mandate of the World Trade Organization is about globalizing businesses and entrepreneurs. So after that, that was also an exciting, that was another exciting experience because um, imagine we were growing that community and all these programs into, at least when I left, in 90 countries.
Mhm.
And again, like I said, like getting to see it still surviving and not as
Yeah.
big as it was before. Also because I saw that the World Trade Organization decreased the the budget for it. But it's still alive. It's still operating.
Mhm.
So there's beauty in seeing that your babies are still. So
Thriving.
both babies are still working and still operating.
And is that the path that it took you to startups? I want to understand. So yay, obviously this is very startup at that point. Walk me through
Yeah,
the next steps of how that brought you home. Is that the
yeah.
right
No, it is. So because we've exited, and so of course by that time, again, as a provinciano
mm,
or someone from the province, for me,
mm,
even the idea of, I did not even think that these things existed or that they
mm,
could happen.
mm.
Uh, and I just wanted to come back home. So at 27, I just wanted to retire. My idea was to
Wow.
retire.
Retire na agad?
And
What the hell?
then
Amazing.
now I'm here and
Oh.
I'm toiling.
Mhm.
No, but my idea was like I'm gonna retire, and my idea of retirement was to be home and to be teaching. And that
Ah,
comes from the thread of feeling na, to me, LaSalle for others is a place where, oh, I got my education and whatnot. But for me, LaSalle was a very pivotal experience because there were so many people who opened my eyes to other opportunities. So kung ito ako before, so I have a small ball and my
mhm,
and my view was up to 10 meters.
mhm,
These LaSalle, I don't know, professors and teachers
mhm.
and friends gave me extra view for another 100 meters ahead.
Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to start doing that for others also.
Yeah.
So now, for example, the startup interest in LaSalle is not so big. So you see a lot of people from Ateneo and UP coming in. So for me, even just putting a bit of that vision that,
Yeah.
this is a viable future for you to do, or even not related to startups, but just being part of their journey. That was my idea of
Mm.
retirement, that I'll start teaching and I'll start being part of our young minds
Yeah.
growth. But how did I end up with AHG? So I
Yep.
was retiring. I was happy teaching lang. That was doing very well. And then the pandemic happened. And I hated teaching online. Dude, like the magic isn't there.
Yeah.
I think it's because the students were trying to survive.
Yep.
The professors, I would say that I'm very tech savvy.
Yep.
But also for us, it was a struggle to connect to the students. So the growth and the mentorship and the
Yeah.
stewarding of these students towards, hey, there's a nice future to look forward to. It's so grim because we had the longest lockdown also.
Yep.
How it was terrible. Like no one knew
Mhm.
when the economy and when are we gonna start seeing each other again.
Well, we got
Uh,
ayuda.
I,
Longest
Sorry.
lockdown, but most ayuda though. Mm-mm.
Longest ayuda. No, but that's when I started reaching out. Like, hey, I was doing startup, and I was seeing Kubo and everything that's been happening, and I see like, oh, they're still operating together with Kubo. So that
Yeah.
then that means that there's a startup space happening in the Philippines. You were there. I was listening to Hustle Share every now and then,
Mhm.
and but it was terrible kasi talagang walang.
None.
It was as a professor. I was locked in again as an extrovert to be
Yep.
locked in a condo alone for
Yikes.
2 years. It was terrible, or
Yeah.
for a year at least. So I started reaching out to friends, and let's just put it this way. Long story short, I ended up being connected to Mark.
Mhm.
And at the time, we were
Was
really
there
thinking like,
tequila
hey,
involved?
no, because this was all online. But the
Okay.
moment we saw each other, our first meeting, he's like, "Oh, we're gonna have dinner, Rene. Like, sure, we're gonna have dinner."
Okay.
Uh, First point of meeting was like, "Oh, shots,
Patron
tequila shots,
Silver.
control." Yes,
Mm.
exactly. And anyway, it's traumatic. Because I came for a dinner, so I did not eat. So
Oh
my
my
stomach
God.
was empty.
Oh my
And then
God.
before the first food came in, we already were, let's say, multiple tequila shots down. I'm not gonna give a number because that might give away the number of tequila shots. But what I find impressive in not only Mark but also the entire group that
Yeah.
I was with at the time. We were getting drunk, but everyone was still sharp.
Yeah.
Which means that the caliber of thinking and intellectual horsepower
Yeah.
in that group was high. And that excited the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you were building to one development startup and one tech startup
Mm.
for 8 years, exited them, that it will come back. I mean, I love researching.
Yeah.
I was making bank by producing research, and then Lasal pays kasi if you produce research. So
Wow.
if you can publish in journals, you get paid for that. And since I love statistics, that was the more
Easy
complex
peasy.
the stat,
Yeah.
I could actually
Mm.
lot of it. But that's what excited me. And I remember after that, tequila driven evening, we had also a Zoom call, me and Mark, and we're like, the only thing is that I hope that I don't get bored with this new journey we're gonna do. And I was like, Renee, you will never get bored because you will have many challenges. And I
Yeah.
tell you, to this day, running out of challenges. I'm not gonna say problems, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
challenges. It's true. If not at the HOCO level, but at the startups, and you get to do it with other smart people.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, so that's how I ended up with HE. It's a matter of, hey, I wanted some intellectual challenge, and Mark, Marcel, and I really just got along really well.
Mm.
I wanted to be operating in the back. I've always told them that
Mm.
I'm willing to put in some money, I'm willing to join, but I just wanted to be in the background.
Mm.
I'd rather be
The Robin. Oh, not the
the
Batman.
Robin, not even the Robin. I want to be the
But
puppet master so
no,
bad,
no. Who's this?
but
The
the one with
guy.
the one with
Alfred.
the call.
Yon,
Yes.
si Alfred. Mm.
But I wanted to be that. But so as you know, the very first iteration of AHG was really a prop tech startup with
Yeah.
sila Ryan, sila
Yep.
Rev,
Yep.
sila Patrick, all of who are now alumni with their own startup. So
Yep.
if anything that I am proud of where
Mm.
AHG has been is that we have alumni everywhere
Mm.
that have started their own startups and their own thing. So
Correct.
Tara for Ryan, Patrick for Tomo Coffee, all of which have raised. Jay Basco for Colo,
Mm.
uh, um, etc. So there are so many alumni that came from HG that are now building their own.
That's amazing.
Uh, and and I'm sure that they had also difficulties during that time where we're very,
Yeah.
we have to build, what are the challenges and whatnot. And I think HE in itself went through that process of iteration and learning.
Of course.
So in our minds, Mark, Marcel, and I, we thought that, if we had a bright idea and we
Mm.
bring ambitious people and we throw in some capital into it, and then we support it and build with them, it's gonna work.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true anymore. The founder truly needs to want to solve the problem.
Correct.
So we became from idea centric to really founder centric. But again, we learn.
Yeah.
Maybe, for example, something like 917 Ventures and others that will work, but that's also because they could keep on pumping money into it because it's such a large conglomerate.
Mm.
But for us, we were an independent, and uh, we were not really backed by, let's say, large families.
Yep.
Our learning is that, everything still centers on the founder and the talent that's
Mm.
inside. What we can do better is actually what H is now, is creating infrastructure around the founders for them
Mm.
to succeed. That could be in multiple things.
No,
But
and to double down on what you said, you're not the only one who went through that first, just sputter right out of the gate. Nah, coming in like, okay, there's a plan, and then the plan just fucking hits you in the
Works.
face. So a couple examples here being an old fart here in the ecosystem, because I was part of it. Kickstart and Idea Space started out that way. Kickstart, 2013, 2014, they had a program with Jay and them of Ardo when he's still Proud Cloud. They did launch Garage as an accelerator within Kickstart, did 2 batches.
Mhm.
Same thing, small checks, 20K, 30K, 50K the most. Very, very early games. There's not a lot of founders to be
Yeah.
investable. Where are those founders now? A lot of us are actually, if not all, deads. But what they learned out of that prepared them to do the first iteration of what they're doing
Yeah.
now. Idea Space, on the other hand, same. Man, they were
Yeah.
making it rain. 10K checks a pop with that Idea Space competition, thingamajig.
Yeah.
That was super spray and pray.
Yeah.
And then at one point, it became equity free pa. So it's really
I
just
know,
like,
I
here you
know.
go. I pray that you do well.
We'll try.
Yeah.
We'll try. We'll see how it goes. But
Correct.
so we also owe it to all of those people who have had those experiences because we also learn from a lot of them.
Correct. And the current iteration now of what they have, the same way the current iteration of AHG is failure driven because you've already just like a startup. A lot of these incubators, all of you investors who do venture build or investment, you will fail at the start. But the moment you're able to pivot and create the right ecosystem that fills a gap that nobody else is doing, then that's how you see progress coming in. The same way startups are, you think your MVP is gonna work, boom, it
No,
implodes in your
absolutely
face, you
not.
pivot.
No, absolutely. So parang for us, like it's also a disservice for us to tell people like, oh, we knew exactly how to do it
No.
from the start. That is bull crap.
Yeah.
That's absolutely not true. But we've learned and we've iterated really fast. So parang so we started off yun nga, parang sa prop tech venture. But then because the economy won't open, we're like, okay, let's make it a prop tech venture builder. So that was when Bjorn came in and another person that maybe is not in the spotlight. That was me, Bjorn, and Danica. Danica now is the COO of Chess 3 in New York. But that was when we initially put in the building blocks for as Bjorn has also shared before, parang it's really just to support founders. How could we partner with them? But at the time we were thinking, we're gonna do everything in-house within AHG. Of course, that means that we also burn a lot of money. But a lot of these things you learn again. And you go back to your again another important aspect. If there's anything that any founder or funded founder will learn from if they listen to this one, is that communicate and be honest with your investors.
Yes. Super important.
You have to involve them with every challenge and learning that you're going through because they put their money in, so they also don't want you to fail. So they're there to advise, but at the same time, listen, but you know your business best. So you also have to have the discernment, what advice to take and what to move forward with. So yun, I think that's where AHG is now. If you ask me, the biggest learning is that one, it has to be founder centric, and two, I think we think that the main challenge to any venture studio in the Philippines to thrive is because the Philippines is bogged down. Our Filipino founders are bogged down with infrastructural problems. And there, we try to distill it into three main things. One, there's shortage of capital. It's true. There's not enough capital flowing in, and or the capital is not risk taking. I'll go back to that point later.
Yeah.
Another aspect is there's the unease of doing business. So, in other countries, when we were operating in everywhere else, when we wanted to set up another office in another country, it's so easy to set up. Like you could open up a company in Singapore in a day.
Overnight. Yeah.
So in the Philippines, it would take a long time.
Yep.
With also a lot of, allowed to say padulas.
Yeah. You can say padulas. Okay.
With a lot of corruption in between. But, we try to not participate in that. But if you have the right network, then the padulas works.
It's very madulas.
It's very madulas. So, unease of doing business is very difficult. So, if you're an early stage founder, it's just hard for you to even start anything. So it's hard to already test your product. It's even harder because the environment you're operating in is absolute shit. Then the last part is access, I believe. It's just the talent. And again, like myself, upon graduation, my parents, and I think there's a similar to them till now, sabi nila, huwag ka mag-startup, Nak.
Ano yan?
Scam lang yan. Or it could be that better to just go to conglomerate. Also, we don't have the same resources to be able to pay the talent to do it. So it's really it's a big task of educating young people, the upside about it, but also the learning, the depth of things that you could learn from being in a startup.
Yep.
There's also access to network. Sadly, even let's say getting funding is also a network game.
No, it is.
It's not a. Sige.
No. Go.
It's not.
I have a hot take. Okay.
I also have a hot take.
What's your hot take?
It's not meritocracy. And sometimes you've proven so much, but because you don't know, you're not classmates from some whatever, or all of those are stacked against early stage founders, which are Filipinos or even non-Filipinos coming here. And that's hard. So that's where kind of AG comes in. So let me go back para dun sa first point, the shortage of capital.
Yeah.
There's already shortage of capital. So from even angels, it's hard to grasp how are they going to invest. It's not like, of course, it's a matter of relationship and trust on the founder, but every angel also in the Philippines has their own metric of how they want to invest. That's not standard. So again, it's stacked up against you, how you're going to package yourself, that angel. Even up to later stage. Now, if you look at the Philippines by data, I'll send you some data points.
I believe you. Your middle name is Rene Data Cuartero. That's it.
No, but if you track how the data flows, there's so much capital coming into the Philippines.
Yeah.
But not everything, but if you look at the metrics for it, they are being evaluated for late stage startups. But the real support and potential and upside is actually in the early stage.
Correct.
So there's a mismatch on what the market needs and
what's available.
Metrics you're doing and whatnot. Of course, thankfully also to Foxmont and Kaya who have been there in the early stages. But at the same time, they've also grown, which means that their ticket sizes have also grown. So there is a growing gap again for true early stage startups to find relevant funding and expertise to come into them. So yun, I would love to hear your hot take. So again, as the market matures, the sad part sometimes is that the early stage gets forgotten when real change on, let's say, people, businesses, growth locally could happen is actually addressing the challenges of the early stage game.
I have a hot take, but my hot take will be told to you after this break. And when we come back, we will talk about the hot take and what I think about that, whether I agree, I disagree, or a mix of both. You'll find out. We'll talk about that more after the break. Hey hustlers, are you a busy entrepreneur juggling a ton of tasks while trying to keep your finances in check? Thinking of raising money from investors or lenders but have no idea how to start? Well, you are not alone. Managing business finances is tough. But don't worry, I got something for you. Introducing One CFO, the leading fractional CFO service and technology provider for SMEs, startups, and scale-ups in the Philippines. Whether you need help with financial management, fundraising strategy, or scaling up operations, their team of top-tier CFOs and their game-changing CFO tech platform have got you covered. And they're legit because I've heard about them from a lot of YC startups actually that got founded in the Philippines, because they've helped a ton of VC-backed startups, scale-ups, and some of the best SMEs in the country reach new heights. One CFO is your strategic financial partner, providing the insights, guidance, and the tools you need to make smarter decisions and drive growth. Plus, they offer personalized support tailored to what your business needs, no matter the size. And what's the best part? It won't break the bank. One CFO services are affordable and accessible to businesses of all sizes. So if you're ready to level up your business and finances, what are you waiting for? Schedule a free CFO consultation with One CFO. Visit onecfoph.co today. That's onecfoph.co today to get your free CFO consultation. And we're back in the break. We are still with Rene Cuartero. And if you're listening, you're still here because I have a hot take. Here we go. Okay, so I totally agree. And I'm going to try to say this in the most honest way possible because I've always been honest. I'm going to give it to you. If there's a bias, Rene, you know what my lens will always be. I'm always going to be pro-founder because that's what my story is all about. And I always have a super bias. So before I give my hot take, I'll tell Muna where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Because just like you, my bias is for local homegrown founders to have a chance. I know it will never be equal.
Yeah,
so you
absolutely.
can cry about it. Sorry, but if you're not coming from IS, you're not coming from the top 3, if you don't have the last name, sorry, you have a handicap. But it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. I was gonna say it's not impossible.
And you need to punch above your weight class to be able to belong. The same way Rene did, the same way I did in these conversations. Because if you don't level up, they're not gonna stoop down. Sorry, that's the game. You need to level up. You need to be part of these rooms for you to have a chance. No guarantees. And
You need to strategically assimilate and
Correct.
know how to play the game.
Correct. And what you get is not a guarantee, a chance to be heard. Because even though I'm now 3 startups in, I have Hustle Share. On certain days, I still get treated like shit. Even if I've made the relationship. So the reason why I'm telling you this, if you're a listening founder, I just need you guys to be ready of what's the road ahead. Because it's not personal. It's just the nature of the beast.
Easy. Yeah.
Yep. So, because if you think they got there, and that's why the statistics are here. If you're just going to look at Hustle Share and the composition of it, there's a running theme. And they always say, "Hi, it's Hustle Share. You're." There's a reason why certain stereotypes or archetypes of founders get the funding, and the others who are homegrown do not. And I'll tell you that later. But here's my hot take. You're totally correct. When funds get more sophisticated, especially if they raise multiple funds, they go up the value chain. So I've seen this firsthand with Kickstart Idea Space, specifically Kickstart. When they started out 2013, 2014, they're super early stage. I was lucky to get a check from them. But I value, again, I credit Minette Navarrete and the guys at Kickstart for teaching me foundational skills. But I fucked up. But everything that I learned there adds up to the current version of this now, who I am now. So once let's just say all the early bets they did wiped out or didn't turn out the way they wanted to have a 10x, 100x, whatever.
They were also learning, to be fair. They were learning and they were figuring it out.
They had to go up and de-risk themselves when they were able to get the next batch where, bigger ticket sizes, less risk because there's now product market fit. They're able to scale. Once a fund gets into fund 2, it becomes so much more sophisticated. And that's what's happening right now in Kaya and Foxmont. Because the IC, like for example, I was able to get Fund 1 Foxmont. Okay? I was able to get Liza before Kaya came in. Oh, no.
And
before
GC,
this predates Kaya pa. The type of conversations we're getting is totally different than if you raise for Foxmont and Kaya now. And that's why their ticket sizes and the type of metrics they look at now. And unfortunately, their Fund 1 is fully deployed. When they say a Fund 1 is fully deployed, the LPs, the people that invested in that fund, have already bet on certain startups along with the follow-on rounds that are there. So good luck. The stakes are higher for you. If, for example, you need to get 50, I'm just saying, the scale of 1 to 10, just random metrics I'm throwing. This is not the 50 pasado na. You're probably going to get a check on Fund 1. When you get to Fund 2, because they're fully deployed, you need at least a 75 or 100.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? The Void, what day before, will invest in early stage, high risk, idea phase, MVP phase startups. Since they've leveled up, it's not impossible. They still deploy. But the lens they look at, because there's different set of investors now.
Different metrics also. So
it's different. And what I love about what you're going, because you're staying at that level, And you're right. At this level now, the ones that are joining pitching competitions, the ones that are coming out of them, it's few and far between. There's
Mhm.
no real entry level, super early stage, high risk, high reward
Correct.
startup. But also, to add to what Rene said, and we will discuss this later with your portfolio, there's still a founder market misfit.
Mhm.
There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of startups that try to solve problems. But in
Yeah.
first glance, kasi, again, it's just this lens. This is not the lens of everything. But in
Yes.
from a top level, it's a team TAM traction question. TAM, is it big enough? Or are you trying to solve a packing problem in a random province na naman? Okay?
Yeah.
That's not big enough. That's not a venture game. You can solve that problem, but the only path to get there is by profit. You go
Yeah.
ahead, solve that
Also,
problem.
ayun pa, parang not everything should be a venture play.
And
I think that's
that's
a
okay.
yeah, exactly. So parang hindi kami na fun, but maybe your business is a debt play. It's a
A revenue play.
revenue play. So parang you didn't fail. You're targeting the wrong box.
Yeah.
You're targeting a losing box because that's not for you. You should not even have considered it.
Okay.
Anyway.
Totally agree. So TAM, diba? TAM, not big enough. Team. Oh, here you go. You need diversity and excellence and have at least the ability to have skin in the game to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And here's the sad part. And I know now because I've gotten exposed to the top tier. You need to give yourself an excellent chance to be heard. And that excellent chance will either come from your resume, because it's like a job interview.
Yeah.
The better if you had an ability to at least do it like Rene, where you've had international exposure. No, because it is, dude.
Yeah.
It is. You have to have international exposure to see that you're not in a tunnel. You're not in a
But your view is not just straight.
Yeah, it's not
actually
tapaolo,
it's 360. Marunong kang lumingon to soup up a bit.
That you get it, right? Second, you have to be at least a repeat founder, diba? A repeat founder where you failed before, you succeeded before, because you probably get it. You already ate enough humble pie.
Yeah.
And third, if you're coming in fresh, you have to be part of the right circles, right school, right friends, whatever. Those are the three that I see. If neither of the above belong in that team, not saying it's impossible, but the handicap level is super difficult.
Yeah.
But it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
Other paths. You have to overcompensate, over hustle, and give yourself a chance to be able to. Because I've seen people do that, right? So, or work on your international exposure muna, or try another startup and learn from it.
Exactly. Right? I was gonna say sometimes it's also what experience do I have to gain to pad and make sure that I actually am an investable person. Also, you have to. You have to also take a step back even. Sometimes I ask founders or wannabe founders, do you actually want to play that high pressure game? You have to reflect and understand. Kinikilabutan ako. I'm having chills. And you have to really know that this is not gonna be a fun game.
Fuck no.
And the resilience you need to have is very high. Have you been rejected enough in life, whether it's school, work,
jowa,
love life, I was gonna say, or and then recovered from it? It's a lot of people. Oh, but when the capital's there, it's gonna be easy. The capital is just the beginning of the challenge, of another challenge. But
that's true. But again, this is what it takes. And the hot take that I have is that, sorry, but there's a bias talaga. And the reason why it's so difficult to get funding, dude, I'm still fundraising now. And I have real good friendships. And I think I've built enough ambag in this fucking ecosystem to do that. And I still get scene zoned. I still get treated like shit, but I know
I
how to
hope
cope.
that, by the way, I will apologize to
No,
you.
it's the fair game.
But
You know what?
fair
Fair
game.
game. I'm a grown ass
There's
man. I'm 36 years old, right? It's nothing. Water under a
yeah.
bridge. You don't need to. I understand, but I worry for those kids. Like I'm a 36-year-old guy, but a 10-year-old, 10 years ago, if this happened, we would have crushed the living fuck out of
You
it.
would have you would have been broken.
I would have
Uh
been crushed, right?
but the question is, again, even if you were broken or whoever would be broken in their 20s, have you risen from it?
No, I did, and so
And
that's
I
why
know that you
I'm
did.
still
So
here.
yeah.
But not everybody has that. So the first thing is you need to get, as a founder, you need to get used to tasting your own blood
Yeah.
and all the other chemicals, GERD, whatever fucking shit, because you're gonna have to regurgitate everything back and swallow everything that you can. One thing I take, we literally just came from the iterative program, and we're super duper lucky because that's what 1.67% passing rate, harder than Harvard now. We're the only Filipino that made it out of that cohort. Prior to that,
Congrats.
no,
Congrats, man.
I'll take the congrats because every single motherfucker that I talked to here in the Philippines said no to me, ignored me, whatever. And all of a sudden, we're looked at into a different lens. But just like,
Again,
but
padding yourself in like,
no, it's
well,
all good. But just like
yeah.
what Post Malone said, now they always say congratulations. So I get it. It's a running cycle. People will doubt you. People will ignore you. People will call you a zombie, a cockroach. Use that as
I
chips on
don't,
your shoulder.
I, it's also a hot take, by the way.
Mm.
What I don't like sometimes is exactly what you said. People call you a cockroach or zombie. Like, dude, we're in a small and starting or a very early ecosystem. The chismes and the talking. And I did not know that it was existing before I entered. But I wish this, I don't know, it is terrible how, maybe because that's not my world and that's how I operate.
Yeah.
But it is terrible that a young ecosystem has that. I would expect that in a hyper competitive late stage ecosystem.
Yeah.
But I think if there's anything that, more established people would hear this in whatever, don't let that uh, culture of chismes and backstabbing happen.
Mhm.
I'm not discouraging any new founders coming in,
But this is the real game,
but
yo.
this is a reality.
Mm.
You would hear things like, "Wow, those things are going around," and that's like there's no reality to it. But because that's how the grapevine
Mm.
has happened. Anyway, but my point being, we're such in an early stage ecosystem. I know we've been in existence for a while, but we're still in that trajectory going up.
Yeah.
Any win in the ecosystem is a win for everyone.
No, for
So
real.
let's not kill chances by
No.
this crab mentality.
No, it's not. And honestly, I've seen so many waves and so many versions of a certain archetype in, I'm like, what? Wave 3, wave 4. I see like, oh shit, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. What what disheartens me is when I see the same behavior and the same result ulit. Like if we can
Mhm.
rise above the chismes and really go out of our way, take a bet on each other. If not even bet, just help each other out
Mhm.
without, pulling
Yeah,
everyone down. There will be exponential growth towards this. So
absolutely.
the reason why I said it, so we went on a massive tangent and took up so much time.
Sorry.
No. And this is important that this needs to be heard because this comes out right after Philippine Startup Week.
Yeah.
And you're probably coming off of, oh my God, there's such a thriving ecosystem. It is. We've
Dude,
come a
I
long
think I'm
way.
I'm one of the people who was like, it's a trying ecosystem, but there are problems. I always say that there
Mm.
are infrastructural and encroaching problems
Yeah.
present. I think we should not be fake also
Yeah.
na hindi
No.
nag-exist yung problems.
No. And we just owe each other transparency. Look
Yeah.
someone in the eye. If they're not there yet, tell them straight up why they're not there.
Mhm.
Because what I don't like and was when somebody says, I'm rooting for you. Great. But what the fuck does that mean? What do I need to do next to get there?
Yeah.
Right? Um, it's great that you're rooting and we root for everyone, but help that person out so
Yeah.
that their next chance is very transparent and they're not. Especially, I'm not. I know how to handle this. I'm cool with everyone. Like for example, I'll just go on tangent. I had a bit of tampo. Rene didn't fucking reply to me. Blah blah blah. But when I saw him, like, yo, we good. I understand. You're not the first motherfucker that did that to me. I get it. So whatever that is, I don't need to know. But we cool. So if someone did that to me again, we cool. I understand. This is not personal, right? But I worry for the kids. I worry
Yeah,
for the first time founders. Let's do better in treating them.
absolutely.
Because sometimes what it would take for them to persist is just that ray of hope that even if they got rejected, that there is a path forward pala. That's it. Because for me,
Absolutely.
dude, the only time you're gonna make me stop, motherfuckers, is you're gonna have to kill me. That's it. You know I ain't gonna stop. Right? That's my rep. And if that's your rep too, that's you come with the right person. But I love that we're doing that. But Rene, I need to zoom in on certain things. We talk about
Absolutely.
founders, we talk about certain how we bet. Walk me through the how you look for the founders you bet on. Because you said it's founder centric. In
Yeah.
AHG, how many investments have you guys done? And walk me through every single founder that you've invested in and why you took a bet on them.
That's
Oh, not all. Mabilis lang.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
super difficult. But I want to actually step back from that and also parang jump up point from our conversation earlier.
Okay.
So as I've said, parang for AHG we see that the problems in for founders to succeed are rooted on infrastructural problems. So for us, if you ask me this question and how we were doing it in 2021, 22, it will be totally different from how we were doing it now.
Yeah, because we all
So
learn.
2023,
Mm.
we really saw that if you don't solve infrastructural ecosystem problems, I saw that.
Wow. Mhm.
uh, it would not really sustainably solve the same problem for other founders that will come into, let's say, the HG ecosystem.
Yep.
So for us, I guess this comes from my ecosystem building hat, when we were doing all of these policies and then I was like, hey government, who's executing all of these things? So it's the same type of lens that I've had na parang, okay, to really solve something, you can't just run programs. You have to create ventures or entities that are businesses in themselves solving those infrastructural problems. So one, sabi ko, an ease of doing business. So that's accounting, finance, marketing, tech dev. If a founder tries to look for that everywhere else, they're gonna be we're lucky, for example, we have some people like Jay Olos of Ponzi. If I haven't listened to his but I would love to listen to him sa the episode. But these are different access points to expertise that should be available.
Yeah.
How should be the bookkeeping done for a startup? How should the corporate structure should be? So for us, we created, let's say, those different ventures within our ecosystem. At the moment, servicing current portfolio, SMEs and SMEs, and that's something that founders will have access to if they come into the ecosystem. You have your access to talent network. We have constructed or spun out, let's say, Founders Launchpad, and all of these different entities that would be accessible to them. Then the Lastly for Capital. So that's kind of very the big play of HG's fund in the coming years. So we have launched a few funds. Some of them are going to go public very soon. But we do see that early stage capital, true early stage capital that bets on founders and founders having the capability to de-risk themselves from the perils of the terrible Philippine startup ecosystem will be available within HG. So there's an accounting firm, there's a marketing agency, there's a tech dev shop, there's a co-working space, there's a recruitment agency, there's also, let's say, funds. So basically, all of these are building blocks that if a founder comes in, they have higher chances of success. is it the same model as every other venture studio out there? Not really. Others didn't need to create their own entities because they were operating in, let's say, Berlin. They were operating in the US, where these problems and what we're talking about, like, oh, how do I file I don't know, my taxes at the end of the month? How do I all of those are not the problems again. Access to talent that's high caliber is also a different uh problem for them. So
Yep.
here in the Philippines, those building blocks and entities had to be created. So
Mhm.
HG on a back on a on we're kind of, let's say, a techglomerate or conglomerate, a mini
Mhm.
conglomerate
Mhm.
of all of these basically support organizations for
Mhm.
startups. So when a founder comes in or when a business comes in, whether it's a early stage founder or someone who needs soft landing to the Philippines as a
Yep.
startup, that's where we are as an available resource for everyone. And that also solves our cash flow problem because now we're a cash generating business and not no
Nice.
longer just cash burning and investing.
No, for sure.
Um,
And it's
so
different between each startup. So I'm literally at your portfolio right now. Like for example, is it Koyo or Kolo?
Kolyo, actually
Kolyo, because
Kolo.
Kolo. Okay, because I
Yeah.
asked like, do you say this like a Spanish guy or what? The Kolo, like for example, Kolo, it's prop tech. You're a co-builder or a builder.
Yeah.
Crave Fast, food tech. You're an investor. Design to
Yeah.
Grow, marketing agency. You're a builder. Doon,
Mm.
travel tech. You're a builder. Dormy, prop tech. You're a builder.
Yeah.
Exam athlete, health tech. You're an investor. FL, Founders Launchpad. It's an accelerator. You're a builder. Go Gym, which we'll have here very soon. Prop Tech, you're a builder. Good night, Prop Tech, builder. Good work, Prop Tech, you're a builder. Helix
Yes, you
Spirit.
went through it one by one.
Fuck yeah, that's what but holy shit, this is long pala. Okay, my bad. Ayun, but
Don't. It's
ayun,
gonna
but
be a long list. But
long ass list. But the theme that I'm trying to get into this is simple. They're betting depending on the type of need that startup
correct.
needs. It's not
So
one size fits all. Here's a check. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. No, it's not like that. You
no.
know?
So for us, so when we bet on a startup, it really it's the typical, team tank traction, whatever.
Correct.
But an important term, a more important aspect that we look at is, do we actually have the capability and the infrastructure for you to succeed? So there's, an unusual portion there where if they come into the ecosystem, could we actually accelerate them? So it's not like we're reinventing the wheel in,
Mm.
oh, how do we venture build, whatever.
Yeah.
So we come in and we identify, do we have to build together with you? So those are the ones where we're builders. So we build from the ground up with
Yep.
the founders. And then those founders now have access to basically what I've mentioned, an infrastructure, ecosystem infrastructure
Mhm.
that if they need any of these services or capabilities or advice, those are available. But then that also means it allows us to bet on founders that are still rougher around the
Yeah.
edges.
Yeah. Diamonds
Because
in the rough.
they're diamonds in the rough, mainly also because the ecosystem, because of it's so terrible. I'm sorry, but the Philippine startup infrastructure
Call it what it
is
is.
shit as it
Yep.
is. And therefore, the support that's needed would be more massive. But of course, on a business, my business hat comes in.
Mhm.
For us to be able to bet or and give more attention and infrastructure for you, of course, we also take a small equity so that
Yeah.
we exit and grow together with you. But then that means that, like anything else, we are just as invested to your startup as you are.
Yeah.
I think there's Palta, which is a venture studio abroad that
Mm.
summarized it very well. What venture studios are.
Yeah.
We are not a VC. We are
Mhm.
not an accelerator. We are a co-founder together with you.
Boom.
And I think that is, if there's anything that you will take out of this, like a venture studio is really just, oh, so you're just investing. Like, no, you, that's why it's also important. If it's important for you to consider and assess whether you want to work with a VC because it's a marriage, This one, it's a marriage plus plus because
Yeah,
we are gonna build with you. We
correct.
are going to cry with you and also go through the trenches with you.
No, I totally agree. I actually I've said it before that in my first two startups, I was technically a solo founder. Had
Mhm.
this been available, I would have gone this way because yeah, it's team time traction. The worst thing I can do is get a couple of random schmucks to also go with me. That's only
Yeah.
clueless and just expand the problem, not just the solution. I knew I
Yeah.
wanted to do startups, but if I am gung ho and I knew I had a chance to actually do it, my super skill. If you have a super skill, do you think would be a good for thing for startups, whether it's product sales, whatever, marketing, then come in, fill in the gap with a
Yeah.
venture studio if you don't have anyone. Because it's
Yeah.
hard to look for, it's like looking for the one in marriage. How the fuck are you going to get that if you don't have the access? But if you have a super skill and the entity can actually help you fill in the gaps, it'd be great. Like for me, I would have done that. I knew I was a salesman by default. I can fucking sell whatever the fuck I think of. I would have gone the venture studio route. Because then I fill in the gaps that I will never be able to fill in on myself. And I bring in the cred of that venture studio to also get me in rooms
Exactly.
that I will never be able to get in by myself. Because you always need help with those rooms. The same way you
And,
did,
and
the same way
and to
I
be
did.
fair, the warm introductions, they're massively helpful. A lot of
Oh,
people think, oh, intro lang naman yun. Dude, like, it's, sorry, I should do it.
no. And
Dude, like, the
there are
intro,
dudes, there are
the dudes
doors.
and dudettes.
There are doors that are permanently locked unless you find the key. And the keys
Yeah,
are with certain people lang, right? But if you find a
absolutely.
venture studio that can help you in, so you're like for example, you're here, you're a one entrepreneur, you know, you wanted to solve a problem, blah blah blah. You want to be a founder. The riskiest, the non-riskiest option, instead of pulling random friends or idiots that you don't
Yeah,
that you know, is go to a venture studio. Try your luck there because you might just have a chance to actually do it if you know you have it and you have the super
yeah, super
skills.
skill. Yeah, yeah. The
Super
Swiss
skills,
knife to succeed in whatever you're trying to do.
yeah, not just that. Oh, yeah, I have 1 year of experience. No, this is not a job
Yeah.
interview. You have to have done this some way or another excellently before.
To be fair, also, I think people should also know that not every venture studio, not every VC would be a perfect fit for you.
Correct.
So to say that, oh, we want to get to this venture studio or accelerator,
Mhm.
wherever, you have to make sure that you also have the fit for them.
Mhm.
You should not because HG is like one of the few options we're the only ones that you should consider. I also tip my hats off to all of the other venture
Yeah,
studios in
and
the
there's not enough pa
Philippines.
rin. There's still a
There's not,
massive, massive gap.
but I was gonna make a small footnote, but there's not enough, and some of them are also struggling.
Yeah.
So, parang again, I go back to that point where there's so much upside still available for the Philippines to truly succeed there. There's if you look at the ecosystem in hindsight of what Europe did, how Europe did it,
Yep.
it was full supportive. And it was more sustainable than kunyari, if you look at the US, it was like the hockey stick was intense. In Europe, you could look at it like para siyang stairs.
Yep.
It's really then slowly building up. And I think
Yep.
the Philippines, it's either we choose to be hyper competitive and then only a few succeed, or hey, let's all work together and see more of the ecosystem succeed. But but that's my philosophy and that's my principle kasi. More
No,
than
totally
anything.
agree. Now,
Mm.
we have to wrap this up soon. We'll talk about
Yeah.
it in a separate thing. But again, I'm glad we went into these tangents because it needs to be heard, right?
Yeah.
Let's not pretend that it's there. So sorry if again to wrap it up, just to summarize what we just did here. If you're a local founder, first time founder specifically, you don't know a way in. The best way to at least test the waters for you, if you don't have a solid co-founder that's equally as good as you or better than you in what you do, go to a venture studio because you get to de-risk yourself, and these guys have done it
Yeah.
before multiple times over. The path is gonna be treacherous. Okay, if you've heard 1,000 no's, get ready for 1,000,000 no's and
Yeah.
scene zones and disrespect. That's normal. You should eat that for breakfast, but don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Take it from me. a lot of the people that have said no, that I felt like disrespected me. If there's one thing that I learned after failing in startups, it always comes full circle. The last thing you want to do is burn the bridge just because you felt
Yep.
someone did you wrong. Every single motherfucker in this ecosystem is busy. There's always a reason why. So don't think someone is you're entitled to somebody's that they'll go out of
Time.
here. Yeah, whatever. It is what it is. Move on and then try again. That's what it
Yep.
takes. So just the last thing you want to do is take it personal. God, this motherfucker. You can make them parinig a little bit, but with a smile. And just laugh about it like,
Yeah.
made you I'm tampo with you.
Look
Then,
at me now.
no, it's all good. Again, just
No,
at
no.
the end of the day, the last thing you should feel, you should think that this ecosystem owes you shit. Nobody owes you shit.
Yep.
This is
But-
the toughest ecosystem, but you can do it if you put yourself in position to
Yeah.
succeed.
I was gonna say yun parang, actually my wrap up point na lang is would be, I think we should recognize that the Philippines is a tough ecosystem.
Yep.
But at the same time, there's potential, there's
Mm-hmm.
people, and there are entities out there to support you. AHG could be one of them. So if you're gonna tips, or at least if you are interested in at least getting to know us and getting to have a time with us, then just go to the website. You could go to the contact button and then startup application. So it could be a founder, or it could also be an investor looking
Yeah.
for perspectives on how to enter and start looking at the local ecosystem. Are you a program manager that wants to do programs that support the local ecosystem? Please come and join us, because again, there's so much work to be done. And there's not enough people who actually share the perspective of let's do it together. And for us, we want to do it together with as many people, as many vetted people as possible.
Correct.
So,
and one last thing to add with what Rene just said. This ecosystem now, which is what's missing before when this started out. There's a lot of experts, but they weren't founders before. Very few. They're founders, man. They're surveys. They're very few and far between. The people that are investors now, the people that are on that pedestal, let's just say the Mount Rushmore of startup ecosystem, whatever the fuck that is for you, are former founders.
Yep.
So the reason why I created Hustle Share is because I wanted to document what you should learn, all their mistakes and all their triumphs, so that you can do it. But don't let it stop there. This is just a sneak peek of what you can learn. Reach out to these guys, because a lot of them, if they're not busy, are more than willing to actually help you out. Because they want to be, all of us, I'm pretty damn sure they would echo this out. They want to be someone they needed 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we'll walk you through how to deal with the fucking ghosting, blah, blah, blah. That's fair game. Just because it is what it is.
Dude, if Ron, for people listening, if Ron got ghosted, that doesn't mean that investors or builders didn't get ghosted.
Everybody.
All of us.
Right.
All of us experiences this. But you have to make the best out of it.
Yeah.
And again, if you're feeling that people don't want to help, actually, I think a lot of people do want to help. They just don't have the time or the attention, or that they're busy with other things. But the willingness to help is there.
You have
You
to
just have
ask.
to find the avenue, and you have to ask.
Because they're not like, hey, I want to help you. Ain't nobody doing that shit, especially the ones that can help you.
Yeah.
Will not go out of their way.
Last thing. But when you're asking for help, know the help that you want.
Be
Because
specific.
the people you're reaching out to, are not going to figure out the help that you need. You have... No,
No, it's true.
That is cool. And parang, please help me. Like, what help? Tell me, general, whatever. But you have to also know what type of help you need and what type of help or blind spot you have. Then probably we'll be able to identify more blind spots. But then that offers you perspective again. But if you come with a blank slate without even doing your homework, then not nice.
No, that's true. And I'll state a very specific example. I'm a mentor in Kubo. The reason why I really put myself out there is because I want to get in there and again help the type of founders that I come from. local, Indio-looking motherfucker that you think that don't have that doesn't have a chance to do it. But I want to help because if I
Yeah.
was able to make chamba and get this far, you can do it too. But the biggest pet peeve I have is some people book time and fucking block out of my calendar. They don't show
Mhm.
up. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? The first thing you should be a master of in startups is to fucking show up.
Yep.
You can't do show up, patay na. There's no chance in hell you're gonna get there. So yeah, that's it. Now before we wrap this up, again, Rene, if they want to work with you and they are sold and they know that there's help and they want to give themselves a fair chance, how do they work with you and what's in store for them if they work with AHG Lab?
So to be able to work with us, again, go to our website and go to the contact page. There are multiple ways there that you could participate as an investor, as a founder, a program manager, or even a government that wants to work with us, or a network organization. And if you want to reach out to also Sinigang Valley Association, which I want to just plug,
Shut up.
it's an industry organization for startups. That's more general. And it's a group of members of founders and let's say startup ecosystem players that want to help and grow the Philippine ecosystem.
Mhm.
On that note, just reach out to us. We'll get back to you on how we could work together. What you could expect. Again, we've talked about this earlier. Aside from just getting advice and also getting the network, you come into HG with an infrastructure available for you.
Yep.
You don't have to use it, but you have the option to. And I think more than anything, having the option and the view
Mhm.
opens up way more than you might have expected without even having access or I know perspective of it. So on that note, thank you, Ron, for
Thank you
inviting
so
me.
much. I appreciate it. No, this is solid. I love it. I knew it was going to be solid, but I'm glad we finally got this off the books. And again, straight after Philippine Startup Week with realism and optimism as we go. But before I let you go, again, Rene, if they want to reach out, where specifically do they reach out to you again?
So website www.hclab.lab.com. Ay,
Dot
lumalabas
lab,
yung
ha? Ah,
lumalabas yung ano
the
ko,
Bataan is
Filipino,
coming
yung
up now.
Bataan accent. www.ahzlab.com. Or you could also connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to just send me a message. I will probably say like, hey, I will connect you to someone.
Yan. Very good.
But you could reach out to me in either of those two platforms. That's easily accessible.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, Rene.
Thanks,
But before I
Ron.
let you go, follow us on whatever podcast app you're listening to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to the podcast. If it didn't say some jargon or any links that you need, it's going to be in the show notes on hustleshare.com. And also, if you want to support Hustleshare and doing content like this, please do subscribe at premium.hustleshare.com. Again, Rene, thank you very much. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.